Hello everyone. So today, as we all know that for the homeopathic student, the preclinical and paraclinical subjects like anatomy, physiology, pathology, etc. are like science and the organon is the art. So basically this art teaches the students how to apply the science that he learned and how to cure the patients in the most appropriate and permanent manner. So, today we'll start one topic logic, which is very much important basically in our practice as well and in the basic understanding of how to do and all. So, what is logic? Basically, logic is concerned with a series of statements, right? Here we are trying to establish one theory. When we try to convince over something to anyone, what we do? We argue, right? So, what is argument basically? Argument is like a statement which we use to prove whatever we are saying, right? So, we try to come to a conclusion based on our argument. So, nothing is like logic different from all this. Logic is basically where we are trying to establish our conclusion based on certain facts, certain arguments, and certain statements. The word logic means the science and the art of reasoning. Okay. The Oxford Dictionary basically defines logic as a way of thinking or explaining something whether it is right or wrong. So it is an ability to reason correctly. That is why we call logic a science of inference basically. Inference, it means that it teaches how one judgment may be inferred from other judgments. So it usually called the science of reasoning. Logic is a Greek word as we all know. So its study began in the ancient Greece, which means discourse. What is discourse basically? Discourse is the verbal inter-exchange of ideas, be it between the people, be it between the institutions, or be it between the schools of different medicines. Whatever it is, all it means is just by verbal communication you are interchanging, you are communicating your ideas, your information, and your knowledge with other people. So logic trains the mind to draw right conclusions and to avoid the wrong ones. It deals with the serious statements basically. And the father of logic is Aristotle. We all know that Aristotle is one of the most famous scientists and philosopher. There are certain words which are related to logic. You all must have heard these words, right? Logic, logical, logically, logician. Like we all know that talk logically. It means something which is right. And it may be very much subjective also because what is right for one person may or may not be right for the other. So it is not very much different and it is one of the major topic of philosophy also. So coming on to these topics, basically logic comprises of two things. One is premise and the other one is inference. Now what is premise? I told you now that during argumentation or while arguing with someone, you need certain facts, you need certain statements, you need something, your sayings which you speak, and for that you need to prove. You come to a conclusion whether it is right or wrong. So premises are nothing but those statements or ideas on which reasoning is totally dependent. Okay, so it is the fact or the theories taken as the base or support for any idea. What is conclusion? That is basically the inference. Conclusion is reached based on that premise, based on that idea, we conclude something, and that is known as inference. So basically, the theories being proved or supported is nothing but inference. To the method of logic. Basically, Aristotle's method of logic was based on syllogism. It is a Greek word. The meaning of this word is reasoning in general. Aristotle faced to syllogize, that is to put two and two together. Now, what is syllogism means basically? It is a form of arguing in which two statements are used to prove that a third statement is true. Okay, here we are using two statements to prove the third statement, which is true according to us or according to the person who is arguing, right? So here we are taking those two statements as premises. So we are coming on to the inference, we are coming on to the conclusion based on the two premises used. Now, syllogism contains three parts basically. First one is data, second one is conclusion, and the third one is consequence. As we all know till now that in syllogism what we are doing, we are taking two premises or three premises, like more than two basically. We should take more than two premises. We can take 2, 3, 4. How much data we can collect, it's up to us, right? So to prove that conclusion, to get that conclusion inference from that data which we are calling premises, is syllogism. Now of course if something we conclude, so we'll have some after effects or after theories or whatever that we are counting as the consequence of that particular logic. Now coming up to types of logic. So basically we are having two types of logic. One is inductive logic and the other one is deductive logic. Now we'll go on each of these types in detail and I hope everything will be much clearer. So now we have deductive logic. Deductive logic is also known as subjective and idealistic logic. So what is happening in deductive logic in general? As we all know that we are taking certain facts, certain statements, certain data to derive at one particular conclusion. So deductive logic is nothing but this in general, that we take some general fact, general truths, and we try to derive something out of it which is particular. So basically from general premises we are coming on to particular inferences. So first we observe from available facts or information or knowledge, then we use them as a base, which we are calling here general premises. Okay, so we are using them as a base. After that we draw a very valid and agreeable statement, and that is all we call it theory or hypothesis, right? So we draw a valid or agreeable statement. Later on we form an effective conclusion out of it, right? We all know that what is deduction basically, right? Deduction is the action or process of abstracting something, or we can say in language like it's taking out something. If something is there, taking out the gist of it, of any conversation, that is deduction. That what are we gaining or abstracting out of that particular thing. So if the general premise in this deductive logic, if the general premise is true, then the particular conclusion derived from that will be also true, right? If something, the basic facts are true, then of course the conclusion that we will derive will also be true. One thing there here we have to keep in mind is that the conclusion or the particular inference that we are gaining out of this general thoughts or general facts or anything, that will never go beyond the agreed general premises. Like your particular conclusion will never go out of those general things. This all will be very much clear when we'll take one example and you will understand it better. But till now, just try to understand that whatever we get in a conclusion will be there in the general premises or general talks. It will never be like out of the box something we get in the conclusion. Like we are talking about some animals and we are getting conclusion of some birds. That will not happen, right? Whatever we are talking, it should be sensible. If that is sensible, then of course our conclusion will be sensible, right? So now moving on to the example. First, before that, we should know who is the father of deductive logic. Like we know father of logic is Aristotle. So who is the father of deductive logic? René Descartes is the father of deductive logic. So now let's move on to the example. Here I am talking about the example in which I'll take certain premises, right? These are the general statements. So here these premises will help you to get the conclusion, basically to get the inference. So this is what I was talking about. Here whatever conclusion we'll get all according to these 4 or 5 premises which I have taken here. So let's start. Example includes all animals have 4 legs. This is one premise or one fact or one statement, whatever we are talking about that. Now the second premise says dogs have 4 legs. Third statement is saying cats have 4 legs, and the final fourth one is saying that cows have 4 legs. All these 4 premises are talking about the 4 legs and of animals. So the inference that we made out of this says that dogs, cats, cows, all these are animals. So this is what I was talking about, that whatever inference, whatever conclusion that we will get here will not go beyond the statements we have taken. Of course, if we are talking here about animals or whatever the criteria which we have implied here, the inference will come accordingly. Okay, I hope this is clear. Now for much clarity, better we'll take one more example. It's a very common example of deductive logic in which a general premise says that all medical students are intelligent. Okay, all the medical students are intelligent according to one general premise, right? The second statement says that Rama is a medical student. The third statement says Gita is a medical student. So based on these 3 statements, what we are concluding? I'll repeat the statements, okay? General premise says that all medical students are intelligent. Then the second statement says that Rama is a medical student. Third one says Gita is a medical student. So the conclusion, the particular conclusion, particular inference, what we are getting here according to the deductive logic is that Rama, Gita is or are the intelligent people because they are medical students. So as the general premise says all the medical students are intelligent, we are able to get a particular conclusion. Okay, I hope this one is clear now. So let's move on to the second type of logic, that is inductive logic. Inductive logic is scientific method based on the experience. It is more like a logic of truth and reality. And here we must have certain facts, okay? And this logic helps us to investigate, to study the nature. Basically the knowledge or the experimentation horizon increases and we are able to draw our own conclusions based on it, okay? In this inductive logic, we draw universal conclusions or inferences from the experience based particularly premises. So this logic proceeds from a particular premise to the generalized premise, okay? And there must be a reliable fact. Here we don't have any intuitive premise or any like factual. Here everything should be factual. In this basically we move from specific to general. So here we can see that we have certain particular things and from particular we are moving to general conclusion. And these particular things are basically very much factual. They are based on the true facts and they are experienced by a people, by a group of people. Then it comes to have a general conclusion. And these general conclusions are basically more often the universal conclusion. Now here also the father of inductive logic is Francis Bacon. And the John Stott will further develop this system in his work, The System of Logic. So now also we'll take one example. Here we'll have some particular thing which are very factual and on the basis of that we'll come to some general conclusion. Okay. So the first particular statement says that first particular statement is premise only. Okay. Here no matter whatever we are telling, particular or general, it's like group of data is known as premises and the inference is the conclusion. That is a technical term, okay? That is the term used for conclusion inference. And the facts or data or whatever the statements we have, the ideas we have, all that will come under the premises, okay? So the first premise here says cow is an animal having 4 legs, which is fact, okay, factual thing. Cat is an animal having 4 legs. Dog is an animal having 4 legs. So what inference we are concluding here? What is the conclusion we are getting? That all animals have four legs. And now this conclusion we know that it is universal. Okay, this is a conclusion more generalizing and universal. So here basically generalizing means we are moving from specific to the general, and generalizing is basically suggests that something they have in common. Right now what they have in common? Four legs. Being an animal having four legs is something which is common, and this is making us concluding and moving from specific to the general. Common example we'll take so that you all will understand more clearly. That particular facts are: first is Rama is intelligent, he is a medical student. Sita is intelligent, she is a medical student. Somu is intelligent, he is a medical student. Okay, so all these particular facts are giving us the general conclusion, or we are getting inferring this all as like all medical students must be intelligent. So in this logic, from a particular finding, we jump to the general conclusion. Comparison between deductive and inductive logic, it is very much important. It will give you a quick reference. We'll go through it very quickly, right? So the first column says about deductive logic and the second one is inductive. So what all is there in deductive? Deductive logic does not give any new knowledge, okay? It never goes beyond the premises. I told you, deductive logic will never go beyond the premises which we have taken. But in inductive logic, it gives new knowledge. In deductive, it is a method of verification. Basically, we have taken certain premises, we are verifying it and coming to a conclusion. But in inductive logic, we are basically doing discovery. We have taken some facts, and from those facts we are deriving something new. So in deductive logic, a person or a child gets ready made information and makes use of it, right? All the premises are true. All the premises have, only because of those premises we have to come to a conclusion. But in inductive logic, we acquire knowledge, information by actual observation. Here, as a person, you are observing, then you are having the interpretation, then you are only explaining that, and later on scientific construction or experimentation you are doing. So basically you have to do a lot of thing in that, but in deductive logic you get the ready-made stuff. So deductive logic is quick, of course, and inductive one is slow, tiring and long. In deductive logic there is less scope of activity in it, but inductive logic is full of activity. I hope this much is clear. For today the topic is over, logic, and you all understand. Let me know in the comments if you like it, if you have any problem or anything, any suggestion. And I hope everyone just learned, got a thorough knowledge about this topic. So thank you everyone. See you later.